Peace and positivity, everyone. It's Takesha of Native Nubian Wellness, and you are tuning in to another session of Black Women Who Blaze. Today, I have a very special guest with me, which I'm totally honored that she decided to share some time and space and grace us on the platform. She is definitely an OG, an original goddess in the cannabis industry and advocacy. We're moving into Black History Month, and I'm so glad to have her as a feature for Black Women Who Blaze during this month. And so, without further ado, Tiffany Watkins is joining me today, and she's widely recognized as Lady Canna, has charted an impressive trajectory in the cannabis community with a robust background in IT as a network systems engineer. She boasts extensive experience in the tech space, backed by degrees in computer sciences and network infrastructure alongside multiple certifications. And STEM is just really important for us. I'd love to dive into that with you as we get more into your story. But her involvement in cannabis advocacy spans over 3 decades, cementing her status as a staunch advocate for the cannabis plant and the people affected by its vilification. Tiffany's dedication to grassroots campaigning has been pivotal in patient representation, championing harm reduction initiatives, shaping public policy, and spearheading community organizing efforts. In a groundbreaking move in 2019, Tiffany established Vanguard Media Online, an innovative platform and magazine singularly dedicated to celebrating the prowess of women in cannabis. I love that. Vanguard stands as a testament to her unwavering commitment, proudly amplifying the contributions, ingenuity, and trailblazing spirit of women across the industry. I think that our goals are aligned. And adding to her accomplishments, Tiffany Watkins has also founded Take Back Coaching, a transformative initiative aimed at removing obstacles to success in life and business. This coaching endeavor embodies her commitment to empowering individuals to overcome challenges and unlock their fullest potential. Tiffany Watkins embodies a fusion of tech know how, profound advocacy, and a visionary spirit, epitomizing an influential figure, bridging advocacy and the thriving cannabis landscape. Thank you, Tiffany, for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. Really, I mean, you just have so many things, so many layers that I want to dive into. And so because it's so much for us as Black women, you don't see us in tech. There's that big push, STEM and studying science, especially computer science, right? And engineering, so to be a Black woman in that space early on in your career as alongside advocacy for cannabis is just tremendous. And 30 plus years in the space, you are modern day history. So, I just want to know all the things, right? I want to know all the
I
things.
understand. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I know this is going to be a great conversation, and I've been looking forward to it. And I appreciate your time. This is a wonderful thing to put out for folks, to understand the true stories, our stories,
Mhm.
stories as women, stories as Black people, is really important, in
Yeah.
all of the aspects. So
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, like you said, it's really important because if not us, who? If we're not going to tell our own stories, then we leave it for others to tell. And oftentimes, the truth is not told. So, from our perspective and our experiences, we have to get the word out there, especially, the walks that we've walked, right? How we connected was through a social platform. I was introduced to Talkativity through Lisa, right? And she's one of the founders of Talkativity, and she brought me on for a presentation, and I participated in the rest, watching everyone's you know sessions, and you and Miss Kindness Ramirez had a really impactful series going on, which was Bridges, right? And it was like cultural conversations are surrounding cannabis and all the things cannabis and those minorities and those who have been impacted by prohibition. And so that is how I became aware of you initially. But as I've participated in Toketivity, I did see that you had a media company, right? Vanguard Magazine and online. And I thought that was super dope. And it was inspirational, because that was something that I was looking towards to create a publication as well. And so that was our initial introduction. And then we got to meet each other in person at NECAN 2023. So that was one of the highlights of NECAN for me. I think they're asking, like, what are your highlights on their social medias? And I was like, that was it for me. Really just seeing someone that I admire in the space who's had the history and advocacy and affecting change. But then also when we see each other, it's just like, yes, because it's not many of us, right? So I'm excited for you to give us a little bit of how you started in the cannabis advocacy space and long ago, right? 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, 30, yeah, 30 plus years is a long time ago, but I will preface it with saying that there are people who have been fighting this fight much longer than I have, that I would be considered a baby amount of time to some people who have really, really been able to dig in deep and start those first little inklings of change. Those first little inklings of change inside of our communities, working hard and some paying the ultimate price, some still sitting behind bars, so there was many that came before me, but I'm very, very proud to be amongst them, even in a small way. For me, cannabis was, I mean, the introduction to cannabis is typically the same for most of us. We start by consuming. And I was lucky enough to have a circle of people around me who were elders in the space. They were not just the typical stoners. So they were educating us, all of us younger ones, while sharing with us. So I got to learn some of the fights that they were already fighting, and those wheels were turning in my head going, this doesn't seem right. You know, Here I was, 17, 18 years old going, hey, you know what? This is really a tool for racism. This has been made into a weapon for our communities, and communities at large. I don't want to just say that the Black and Brown communities were only affected. We were by far the most affected, but
Right.
not the only communities affected. And such a broad approach to creating a villain out of an herb is still to this day mind blowing to me. So I entered with that mindset, and thankfully with that level of education and heart, that I was able just to jump in and go, where do you need me? And at that time, in the late 80s and early 90s, we couldn't just go out there and go, yeah, yeah, I'm doing this in cannabis right now. People go, you're doing what? That would have gotten me kicked out of college. That would have got, I would have not had any, I wouldn't have had a chance. So we operated in the shadows. I always say, I'm an outlaw. Many of us are outlaws. We got medicine where it needed to be. We got voices heard that needed to be heard. We amplified ourselves. I've written many a speech. I've signed up many a voter, and all these things to help push initiatives forward while I was still in my first 4 years of college. So I was quite young, and we didn't have the the media to rely on. Everything in the media was against us. Everything was, if you have this plant near you on your person, if you consume it, if you're about it, you are a criminal. You are one of the dregs of society. So it was very difficult to navigate. I'm always thankful to the elders who held our hands and showed us how to navigate on the back end so that we can help people on the front line. And most of those people who needed help on the front line were those who were suffering from illness. My heyday is during the time where AIDS was just rampant. And there were some therapies, and those therapies came at a huge price. Livelihood. They were sick from the medication. some getting medication way too late, being passed over because, again, another marginalized community was affected greatly by AIDS and HIV.
Right.
And that was our LGBTQ plus communities.
Agreed.
And people were fighting just to be able to live a little bit longer. And if they could live a little bit longer, they wanted some quality of life. And cannabis and some other herbal therapies were there for them, but they were being treated like criminals. People I personally knew were being arrested for possession of a plant to make them feel better, to help them eat.
Mm,
And it just was a travesty, something to look back on and go, those weren't fun times. Those aren't fond memories, you know, but we had a job to do, and by far every little piece, there are many of us what I call drops in the bucket, but together, the unity of that created a lot of change, created a lot of push forward to what we have now, which isn't perfect,
right.
but it certainly isn't what we anything near what we thought we could have in 1989, 1992, in those days. So, I always look back at that fondly and go, the grassroots movements do work, and it takes all of us. We're so separated right now by licenses and ancillary and all this stuff for the plant, forgetting the unity. And that's where the point where I come from. That is my origin story. It was those who included me to educate me, to teach me to fight and empower me and embolden me with not only their strength, but fuel that gave me the passion to keep pushing forward. And, there's a lot more that I continue to try to do to put that same fuel that was put into me into others in the next generation so that we can continue this fight because the fight's still on. We haven't won anything yet,
That's right.
not by far.
That's right.
So, yeah, that is people say, "Where do you come from?" That's where I come from. I come from the point of we've got to do much more than what we're doing now to get as far as we think we see into the future. And that's not just me talking now, 2024. That was me talking in 1990, because it was the same thing. We've got to do more. We've got to do so much more. All of what they did was in vain if we don't do more now. And all of what we're doing right now will be in vain if we don't do more for the future.
Yes.
Has to be.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And, there was a few things that you said in there I found, very interesting. And I think that it we don't realize that we have to get the youth involved, right? And because of the stigma, of course, and and all the things with, cannabis being bad, weed being bad, marijuana being bad, that it's stay away from drugs. But the lack of education is really what drives this, right? And so the fact that you had elders, even though it was, they had to do it on the back end, they educated you, in your youth because they knew that getting the youth involved
Right.
would help to drive this. Like you said, if you didn't get involved as a youth, 30 years, the 30 years that you put in, we may not have seen this type of movement, an actual industry, because you didn't get involved really to advocate for an industry to be able to be formed. It was advocating for people to have access and the freedoms to consume a plant for their own health and well being. Right? It was advocating for freedom and liberation. It really was not advocating for people to be able to make millions and billions of dollars. That's not that wasn't the initial uh
We couldn't even fathom that. We could not fathom that people would be basing a business model off of the cannabis plant at that point in time, not like what we have now. We didn't envision a regulatory system around the plant. What we envisioned was some freedom
yes,
to choose a medical path, to choose a life path,
yes,
and to just the freedom to choose things around you that are not harming you or anyone else.
right,
And that was really what we were looking forward to. And even when we started to build things, like at the formation of things like the 215 Proposition 215 movement in California, um, it still was about freedom. It wasn't about a regulatory system. It was really about allowing folks to choose a pathway, whether that be for their health and wellness or for their recreation or just for their life in general, the freedom to be able to walk that path without interruption. Life interrupted is the government's way. I mean, I really hate to sound like such a conspiracy theorist, but it's all right here in front of us to see, read, taste, feel, and live. Is that, we live a life interrupted oftentimes because of rules and regulations. And here we have done the same thing around this plant. That's why the fight is still on. We
Right.
still need things to look and feel the way that we want them to, so this community isn't completely lost to an industry. And a thriving industry at that, I won't take that away, but we still deserve to have the community around it.
Right, right, right. I like you said, it should stem from and look more like and built like, what the plant embodied. That was, really what I advocate for. The plant doesn't need to be, like you said, capitalized on to the point of losing its true purpose, right? Whether, like you said, whether it's for therapeutic or medicinal or for some recreational enjoyment, the access to it has changed. The vibe of it has changed. And have you noticed that in the direction it's going in? What do you think about it?
What I think is that we need to get a stranglehold on that vibe, on what point at where we want to point this industry back at the community. What's being lost is the ability to have inclusivity. I think I'm all for a brand new industry in America. 100%. How can I not be for that? How could you, me, anyone, right?
Right,
But what I don't want to see is there to be this exclusionary tactic where there are only certain folk who get to thrive in this space. Every other industry in America has origins in bias.
mhm,
And we have the greatest opportunity with this new burgeoning industry to make true change.
right,
And what it looks like in the future is a testament to what we look like at the moment of creation. And
right,
right now, we're pretty separate.
mhm,
And if people believe that that doesn't spill into this cannabis space, into these businesses, it looks all cool. You go into a dispensary and there's great music and there's cool people and you're having a wonderful time. I think people forget that there are layers to all of that, and people are being discriminated against. People of color,
yeah,
women, some people with disability.
yeah,
I mean, this is still present even in this very freedom-based industry.
right,
So right now is our opportunity, our good and clean opportunity to do what's right. Yeah, we want banking. I was just having this conversation the other day. We want the freedom to be able to bank just like anyone else, right? But we need to correct wrongs that have been going on for these exclusionary tactics. Cannabis is but one exclusionary tactic that our banking system federally has.
yeah,
And if we're willing to take a look and unpack all of those types of things, we are going to build on top of those things. And they'll still trickle through into our industry. This is our opportunity to make real change in multiple aspects of our lives
yeah.
through this community turned industry. And I think that we need not be blind to that.
I agree. I agree. I said that this plant is a tool for liberation. It can be used as a tool for liberation, for those who have been oppressed and suppressed. It brings balance to the body, but it also can bring balance to this planet and humanity, if utilized properly. So I agree that, you know, this is just one industry, and at the same time, it's a new one. And if it's going to be built on the same things, that all other industries have been built on, then which we're already seeing the effects of it, right? And what people are calling equity, not really having an equitable opportunity. That was just a conversation. And when you listed all the exclusionary, um, you know, I would say groups so far, I have to raise my hand for all three,
Mhm.
being a disabled woman of color. And it's like, wait a minute, that's me, and I definitely feel it. I
Mhm.
definitely feel it. So this is why creating platforms like this where I can speak, about what I'm witnessing, uh at this day and time, and other people in other parts of the country like yourself are witnessing and experiencing and have seen throughout the years. It's just truly important. And so, yeah, I didn't get into where you were located and where you are from, right? I think that we just dove right in. and so,
We did.
and so where you located? Well, not currently, but where you originally from?
I'm originally from California,
Oh wow.
Northern California. Yeah,
Okay, born and raised in California, and so all of this work that you've been doing for so many years has been, and we've been watching California for many years, you know,
yeah.
um, operate how things unfolded with cannabis in California, um,
Right.
and really, I see some states trying to model, right, trying to model what happens, but what are some lessons that you can share for those of us that are in other states that haven't quite gotten there yet? They may be medicinal, they're almost, adult use, or have just become adult use, and you've seen, are they doing the right thing? Should they avoid the way California rolled things out? Like what's some advice you can give us, because I know you do a lot of work in the space.
Sure. I'm glad to lend my opinion, and I say that it's my opinion because we all have a view from our standpoint, of where we've been. California is my home. I wasn't born there. I was born in Texas, but I grew up in California. But when I started advocating for the plan, I actually was advocating in multiple spots. California was strong, Colorado was strong, up Pacific Northwest was working at it. And I think as we grow, what I noticed, and right now I'll say I'm on the East Coast, and so I'm in the Massachusetts market,
Mhm,
and what I call the baby markets. Those have been around for 6 years or less, right? And what I notice is that every state keeps learning from the next state over.
mhm,
So you see some new innovations. You see things like social equity built into regulation to
mhm,
try to have a little bit more equality and have a little bit more strength in the department of taking a look at what's going on with the Black and Brown citizens who were most affected, but most barriered from having licenses, right? So I think that is one good thing that I see is that the states are attempting to learn from one another. My advice for anyone, whether they're entering the cannabis space or maybe thinking they want a license or they want to have a company that is supporting to the cannabis industry, is to understand that the point of entry is activism, period. Whatever color your skin is, whatever orientation you are, however you identify, when you want to be a part of this community turned into an industry surrounding a plant, you are an advocate for the plant and the people whose lives are touched by it. And so if you're a license holder, that means you would like to take this cannabis for yourself in your retail location or some other aspect of the supply chain to the people. If you are a cultivator, you want to grow this plant, and ultimately people will handle it, people will benefit from it, people will have it. So understand that you are an activist the moment you enter. And you must, in order to honor this space, in order to honor your dollars, you have to be an advocate for something.
that's right.
Even the marketability of cannabis from store to store is built off of standing for something. People will buy more from folks who they can understand their ideology, their why, and their how before they buy from someone who's just kind of like, hey, I got this weed to sell.
Right.
Because they're going to a business now. There is no more your plug where you know them. You might know their family, they might have been a friend, you knew what they stood for because you know where they come from.
Right.
When people want to even these, so you have to be mindful that when you enter this space, you are an advocate, which means you're headlong into activism. So educate yourself. My second piece of advice is to educate yourself. You may think you know, we all may think we know until something changes. There's an ever changing landscape around the regulations of cannabis, all states. So once you think you're in the know, just wait till something changes so you don't know again. So keep educating yourself and stay just really on top of not only what's happening from the top down, but what is happening in the future, what the people are talking about, and what people want, and the change they want to see. You want to definitely stay educated, because I think those are some of the the biggest mistakes that I see is companies that go, well, this isn't happening for us, and I go, well, what do you know about this? And they fall flat.
Right.
Not much.
Right.
So we can't do that. We have to be unified in this. The only reason we have this, what we call an industry, is because we were unified enough to keep saying the same thing, keep protesting, advocating, yelling, hear my voice, hear my words, to have what we have in our hands right now. And we're going to lose it if we think we have it all right now.
Right. 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 Because, in all actuality, it's still federally prohibited, you know. And so, like you say, you are literally, moving like an outlaw, okay, in these United States
Yes.
of America. And so, even with that, now that I'm seeing the reschedule, versus deschedule conversation.
Yeah,
And, I think that I can understand uh, both concepts, right? Well, I definitely am for descheduling, right? But I don't, like you said, it's not something that's just going to happen right away because then what? Once it's descheduled, then what? And how does that affect all the things that have been done? You know, and so it's going to take some time, but at the same time, you have states moving and creating opportunities, but with prohibition still, like you said, the banking issue and all the other the 280E, it's just so difficult to truly operate a business
it really is.
like every other industry does. So people want some leadway, and so they now brought in the rescheduling to Schedule 3. But which I'm still baffled and trying to read through that whole thing and trying to figure it out. Like, yeah, we need we need to come together as a community and
Yeah,
speak up.
it's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
It is so much to go through and understand. But I think when that was a couple Fridays ago when it was released, everybody started talking about it, and then the panic set. It was nothing but you go through LinkedIn, and it was nothing but panic. And I understand it because many of us have worked very hard, and we don't want to see something snatched away from us. So the emergency is like, hey, I got to hold on tight. What's going on here? We want descheduling. Of course, we want that. That ultimately makes the most sense, right? But rescheduling it also makes sense. If we look at the track record, it also makes sense. I think the biggest one is people worried about big pharma stepping in and stepping on toes. And I guess the way that I look at it is, yeah, sure, that could happen. But big pharma has a lot more money than cannabis does right now. A lot, they're able to lobby faster, harder, and stronger than we ever could.
Mhm.
And they haven't done anything. They've had prime opportunity to do so with or without any schedule.
Right.
It doesn't matter for them. So with that, when I think of it that way, I go, okay, what this really means is we got to fight. We still need to put our voices together, put our words together eloquently. We need to send our letters. We need to make our comments and talk about this. It's important that we continue to talk about this and we release the panic, because there's no reason for us to have a panic move. We've seen the power that we have together. Look at what we have now. We see that power. And best believe that the government sees that power too.
Right.
And so what we need to do is exercise that power. And that power only comes when we put our voices together. We've done it before, and it's time for us to do it again and keep doing it. So we can see and we don't lose what we have that way.
Right.
and we carve a pathway for something new that way as well.
Right, right, right. I agree. I agree. I think, like you said, we have to come together, go over it, and decide what works and what doesn't, and then speak about what we feel doesn't work for us. You know,
Absolutely.
like you said, especially those who are boots on the ground. But you can't get involved in the space if you think that you just don't have to do anything. You don't have to participate and actually help affect change. Um, and what I thought was going to be simple, it was a very complicated, it was a very complicated document. And, I think that, constant looking into policy because it's changing over and over and over again. In each state, you have to stay current. And you need support in doing that. You need support in doing that. And share, we have to continue to act as a community. I think that that is the biggest, maybe, issue is that we're starting to lose the community aspect um, of cannabis and move into this industry, and everybody's so concerned about us finding a pathway in the space, and being left out and being left behind. But there's really truly no industry without the community.
Right.
you know so
It's
so I feel like federal prohibition will eventually get to where it needs to be, and it'll be legalized, but there are steps to it. It's just not one day we're just going to wake up and bam, it's it's totally it's totally legal. I mean, just like the states rolled out where it was medicinal first, and
yeah.
then eventually it went to adult use. So I could see it moving in that direction. And big pharma is big pharma. And it's no different than, the herbalism community as well. There's so many things that they're, trying to change in that space and regulate in that space. But
Yeah, no, we're not trying to challenge their space and tell them to go away. We just want equal playing field.
right, right,
You know, it's a freedom of choice. You choose. Because I talk a lot about that. People know, because I talk openly about the fact that I'm not into Western medicine at all. I did not raise my children. They're both grown. I did not raise my children to with doctors. I treated them at home with herbs, some of which was cannabis and other things. I treated them from my kitchen. Now, I'm not silly. If they broke a bone or something, obviously they need imaging, they need things to be reset. But, we didn't go, if there was an earache or a tummy ache or a fever or something like that, I wasn't searching doctor's care. Care came from me.
right,
It is not that I'm against medicine. I just like the idea that I have the freedom to choose the pathway that I want for my family.
right,
And I don't think that steps on anyone's toes. If
right,
every person in the United States right now, if every person on the globe said, I want to choose, we're all going to choose different things.
right,
In my family, I'm a little bit different than everyone else. I was not raised that way. My family, I grew up very conservatively. My mom and dad would have never tried to treat my brother and I from their kitchen.
right.
They were definitely going to go for Western medicine therapies.
Yes,
They made that choice and it was their choice to make. It's not for me to agree or disagree with. So see, I think that our freedom to choose really is always what's on the line because there's going to be maybe a higher percentage. It could be a lower, but there's going to be a percentage of people who are going to choose to turn away from pharmaceutical medications and those style of therapies. And I don't know if that is an issue. I'll say lightly, but I know that we deserve it. We deserve to be able to make that choice without consequence.
that's right. I
And that
agree.
we understand that our consequences that we have, and that's only based on our actions at hand, not a consequence coming down on us like a blanket because they don't understand what we're doing. Those are two different things.
I agree. I agree. And all of this really stems from, being an advocate, not just for everyone else, but starting with yourself, and being an advocate to have the right to choose your own autonomy, what you consume in your body, how you consume it, as long as it's not doing any harm to yourself or anyone else. So That's where it stems from. And you recently just had an advocacy class, a webinar, right, with Oaksterdam University, and you are a teacher there as well, right? And so, how did that come about?
Me teaching for Oaksterdam was quite interesting. I went and audited a class. Oh, I'm going to say maybe in 2020, and I wound up enrolling after auditing the class because I found it so interesting. I said, I want to support. I really want to support this. Right? I'd already known about Oaksterdam University, but I hadn't really taken the time to dive in.
Right.
And it was, we were all at home and diving into a lot of things that we wouldn't have. And I'm so thankful for that because it helped me to find what the true mission of Oaksterdam University is. Their pillars of education, advocacy, and support are demonstrated through all their courses. And so once I took the business of cannabis and, and got my certificate, which I thought was absolutely wonderful for people to be able to do, especially if they're just emerging into it and they have no idea what's going on. It's a good snapshot of what's happening out there, right? And then I just started talking with the other faculty and started talking with Dale and leadership, and it all boils down to I started teaching. I started teaching an advocacy course, and then from that I went on to start teaching business of well, it's in the business of cannabis semester. Advocacy is, but also marketing and branding for them. And I've been doing it ever since. And so now I have I've become the chair of Impact, so kind of our outward voice. And
Yeah.
I really like that. I love educating people. Number one, I got a soft spot for learning, so I want to be a part of that with people. But it also helps to make sure that our voices are number one, like my mantra, stay unified, but that people understand what it means to include everyone. And sometimes that's tough because we all have a lot of biases, but we can move past those and really get down to the nitty gritty of what works. And my seat ensures that the outward voice of Oaksterdam stays clean and clear, and that we make sure that everyone feels welcome and heard.
Yes, I love
So
it.
yeah, it's enjoyable. I absolutely enjoy it.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And, so, and then when I saw that you had the class and it was open to everyone, for
Yeah,
you.
that was the first time we've done that one of those.
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. And so we appreciate that because I know, there's a lot of organizations that and educational institutions that are educating in cannabis, but are missing the advocacy part. And it's just like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. You know,
Yeah.
this is a big piece because if you're missing advocacy, you're also missing history. And you know, I think that, like you said, you have to have the foundation in those two and then be educated in order to really truly move in the space and be impactful and make sure that you're being inclusive of everyone because that's what the community is, right? So, but yeah, between, Oxidam and you doing, Bridges with Miss Kindness and those conversations, which we can find on YouTube, or is that on a network?
It's on YouTube. I believe some of the series is also on Instagram, and that it's Bridges. You search Bridges and go to the website, and you can see most of the first season on the website right there.
Wow, and that was just the first season, so there will be more.
Yeah, we went on hiatus to try to gather because this is very intentional work. Bridges was a very intentional project, brainchild of Miss Kindness Ramirez. And it was, like I said, intentional in the sense that we looked at all these topics and tried to, there's so many to choose from. There's so many. When we first started doing this and talking about it, we were on the hop-in platform through Toketivity. People were coming in, they were live asking us questions, and we were just like, wow, there's a lot of not only interest, but need.
Mhm.
And so we started really thinking, what can we talk about that makes the most impact, that opens the most minds and answers the most questions. So, before there can be more, we have to make sure that we're doing it right. Because there's so many organizations, even ones that have reached out to me, who I've declined working with because I'm like, you're not intentional. You're just trying to fill a gap. And the things that I do fill a need.
Yes.
Those are different.
Yes, 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 I agree. Everyone's talking about branding. And for me, it's like I don't have a brand, I have a purpose. I'm not just here to build something. And, I'm like you said, it's intentional with, problem solving and helping others and filling a need. So I'm so grateful that you guys are you ladies are taking the time to really be intentional about the conversations in the next season. It's important. And so, not only can they see you there, but also Vanguard Media Online. And so that publication, is it still in print or is it on just digital platform?
It is still in print. If anybody would like to order the archived, well, I should say the archived magazines, because we are moving from that print variety and shifting to a completely online platform. So yeah, those first 4 years
Uh,
of magazines are all online and can be purchased. We are integrating that into the website right now. So when you go to vanguardmediaonline.com, it is you might not be able to get in as we're changing some of that code to drop everything into an online kind of database. So it's relatively large. We've fielded a lot of women's stories over this time.
yeah.
But we're not going to stop with the women's stories. We put a hold on social media so we can relaunch in this new way, excuse me, which will include video content and still that advocacy for women and showcasing them, but in a different way where you don't have to flip the page, you just have to scroll the screen. So it's still the same thing. This effort has been going on probably longer than the magazine itself. I'm going to say I'm probably close to 10 years on the sharing of women's stories and having these conversations. So I'm happy. Even when I do hiatus, I'm still happy because I know it's coming back. You know what I mean? I know that because we have to have this. This is what we look like in this space right now, yesterday, and tomorrow. So, I'm always excited. So I'm always looking for women's stories too. So whoever wants to share.
Yes, yes, thank you. And I will definitely share all of your details in the description so everyone can reach out, contact you, like you said. If you have a story that you want to share and be on the platform, that'll be exciting. And so now you said you're in Rhode Island. So that means that are you here working on it? You're on the East Coast now. So are you here working? And what are you doing on this side of the US?
So I'm all over the place. Usually I am, but right now I've been in Rhode Island. I'm actually living in Rhode Island, but it's really probably only temporary. But I've been here for almost 9 months,
Wow.
and I came out to the East Coast for one of my clients. So I do consulting, coaching, which I've done for years before I guess it became very buzzy to be a coach and consultant. So one of my larger clients is out here, and I just, I'm free to move around. My kids are in college, so I'm free to go wherever I wish. And so I came out here to be closer and more hands-on. And through that, I'm just like you were talking about earlier in my bio, the last part of it is I started to talk more openly about the fact that I've had a coaching platform for decades. And so, but now it's just time to be a little bit more open about it as I survey the space itself, not just cannabis, but the whole world of mentoring and helping folks. And I find it wanting. I always tell the truth. I surveyed enough to go, wow, we need more people who really know how to navigate mentoring, teaching, and coaching folks through problems.
Yeah.
And so, I'm more open about the fact that, take back has always been a thing for me. And, just applying that method to my clients is very helpful. And I will go far and large for the folks I want and need to help.
I love it. I love it. It's so many facets of what you do, in and out of cannabis space. I mean, just the tech, the IT, the media company, advocacy, and grassroots organizing. I mean, you're a powerhouse, and I'm so grateful that you decided to join the platform. Black Women Who Blaze, definitely a trailblazer, has blazed trails, and this is why and how I'm able to navigate the space that the way I am. So I appreciate what you've done, all that you continue to do, and I look forward to further connections and to vibe with you again. Have you back on the platform and maybe dive into something specific But is there anything else that you would like to share for the audience and those who support the platform, especially Black women who are looking to cannabis and thinking and hearing about an industry, thinking about, some of the transferable skills they may have and what their next steps should be in the space?
Sure. I think that I like to let folks know that when you're wanting to enter into anything, and this includes cannabis, shift your focus. Shifting your focus. We spend a lot of time on our phones and so it's in social networks. Shift your focus there. Start to follow folks who are in the know. Um, find people who you think are smarter than you in the space and follow them, read their words, and diversify that. You read words from these five people, find five opposing thoughts, and read that too. Be well rounded in your knowledge base to press you forward so you can figure out what your next step is. Always ask questions, keep learning, and don't be afraid to take a chance because that's the one you will keep teaching yourself and okay, I can learn this here, and you'll get caught in that loop. You have to step outside that loop and take a chance on yourself, on your project, on your own knowledge. Trust you.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, how can people reach you if they want to connect, if they need some guidance, some consulting, some coaching, if they want to, attend your class, your next advocacy class?
Sure, you can go for any classes that I teach through Oaksterdam. You can go to oaksterdamuniversity.com and you can scroll through the course guideline and you can search me on there. You can find some of the things that are free that I've taught. If you are interested in any coaching or just want to talk, just want to talk shop, I'm available on all the social media platforms and mostly on LinkedIn. So you just search me by my name and look for the Mohawk. And you'll be able to find me. I'm always open to DMs. You can email me directly at my coaching hotline, which is Tiffany at takebackcoaching.com. I'm always ready to communicate. So yeah, just drop me a line.
Well, thank you so much, Lady Canna, an original goddess of the cannabis space, 30 plus years, modern day Black history. I truly appreciate all that you've done and your time. And if you are a Black woman who blazes, who consumes for your health and well being, you are an employee in the industry or an entrepreneur, an advocate, and want to come and share your story, please reach out at Black Women Who Blaze on IG. You can DM me. And if you need any of my services, you can find me at nativenubian.com. Peace and wellness. Thank you.